name is Adam Miller, and I'm a long-haul truck driver. I've been driving across the United States for over a decade. I've crossed deserts where the heat bends the air. I've driven through blizzards where the road disappears under snow. I've spent nights on highways so empty they feel abandoned. None of that ever bothered me. But one night in 2021 changed how I look at the road forever. I was hauling freight from Sacramento, California to Bozeman, Montana. It wasn't a new route for me. I had driven it before, many times actually. The Rockies are tough, but if you respect the road, you get through. That night, I entered the Rocky Mountains just after midnight. It was winter. The kind of cold that sinks into your bones and doesn't leave. The kind that makes the air feel sharp when you breathe. There was no traffic. No headlights in front of me, no tail lights behind me. Just my truck, the road, and miles of mountains wrapped in darkness. At first I felt calm. I had music playing low. Nothing loud, just enough to keep my mind alert. The engine hummed steadily. The tires rolled smoothly over the asphalt. It felt like any other night drive. As the road climbed higher into the mountains, the grades became steeper. That's normal out there. Then I noticed the engine temperature gauge. It was climbing. At first I ignored it. Loaded trucks heat up on long mountain climbs. It's part of the job. But the needle kept rising, a little higher than normal, then a little more. I turned the music off and watched the gauge closely. I eased off the accelerator, but it didn't help much. I didn't want to risk overheating the engine in the middle of nowhere, so I decided to pull over and let the truck cool down. I found a wide shoulder where the road curved along the mountain. No guardrail, just trees, rocks, and darkness beyond the edge. I slowed down and parked. I shut off the engine but left the headlights on, pointing straight down the empty road. When I stepped out of the cab, the cold hit me instantly. It wasn't just cold, it was silent. No wind, no insects, no distant animals, nothing. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's pressing against your ears. I pulled my jacket tighter around me and lit a cigarette. The glow of the cigarette tip felt too bright in the darkness. I stood beside my truck, blowing smoke into the night, letting the engine cool. That's when I heard it. Something moved in the bushes on the other side of the road. Not loud, just a soft rustling sound. At first, I didn't think much of it. Deer, maybe, or a small animal. But then the sound stopped. A few seconds passed. Then it moved again, slow, unsteady. It didn't sound like footsteps. It wasn't steady or rhythmic. It was more like something shifting its weight, then freezing, then shifting again. I stopped smoking and listened. The sound stopped again, and suddenly I felt it. That feeling you get when someone is looking at you. I couldn't explain it, but my skin prickled. I told myself I was tired, that the silence was messing with my head. Still, I decided to check the back tires and get back inside. I walked toward the rear of the truck and turned on my phone flashlight. Mountain roads often trap rocks between the dual tires. If you don't clear them, they can cause damage. I crouched down and checked carefully. No rocks, no damage. Everything looked fine, but as I stood up, something felt wrong. In the faint spill of light from my headlights, light reflecting off the side of the trailer, I sensed something behind the truck. Not movement, just presence. Like something standing there, watching, not breathing, not shifting, just there. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to. Every instinct in my body told me not to look. I walked calmly back to the driver's door, climbed into the cab, and locked both doors. My hands were shaking slightly. I started the engine and pulled back onto the road. As the truck gained speed, I checked my mirrors. At first, I saw nothing. Then, in the side mirror, I caught a reflection. 2 points of light. Eyes. They weren't animal eyes. They were too high, at human height. They didn't move. They didn't chase the truck. They just stayed there, growing smaller as I drove away, watching. I stared at the mirror until the road curved, and they disappeared. I told myself it was a reflection or my imagination. But my heart didn't slow down. About half an hour later, fog rolled in. Not light fog, thick fog. The kind that swallows your headlights and gives nothing back. Visibility dropped fast. I slowed down, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Driving blind on mountain roads is dangerous, but stopping out there felt worse. Finally, I saw a dirt turnout and pulled off. This time I turned all the lights off. I didn't want to be visible. I sat in the dark, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. The fog pressed in around the truck like a wall. After a while, I needed to step outside briefly. I grabbed my jacket and stepped down from the cab. The fog was so thick, I could barely see the front of my truck. I took a few steps away. That's when it happened. The horn exploded. Loud, violent. Right behind me, I nearly jumped out of my skin. I spun around. The truck sat there dark and silent. No lights, no movement, no one inside. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I climbed back into the cab, hands shaking, and locked the doors again. I checked the horn. The button was wet. Not damp from condensation. Wet, like someone had pressed it with sweaty fingers. I wiped my hand on my jeans, suddenly feeling sick. The rest of the night was worse. I heard knocking. Not loud pounding. Soft taps. Metal tapping metal. From different parts of the truck. Sometimes near the rear tires, sometimes near the cargo door. Once, I heard footsteps circling the truck. Slow, deliberate. I checked the mirrors. Nothing. Then I heard the cargo lock rattle. Something was trying to open it. I lost my nerve. I cracked the window and shouted into the fog. "Whatever you are, leave me alone. I'm not here to cause trouble. I'll leave as soon as I can." The fog swallowed my voice. A few seconds passed. Then I heard laughter. Not close. Far away. Thin. Mocking. Like someone laughing at a joke only they understood. I shut the window and sat, frozen. After what felt like hours, I saw a light moving through the fog. A flashlight. A human voice called out, "Hey, you okay out there?" A man stepped into view, middle-aged, wearing a heavy jacket and boots. Normal, too normal. He said he lived nearby and had seen my truck parked for a long time. He asked if I needed help. The moment he arrived, everything stopped. No knocking, no sounds, no feeling of being watched. Just silence. I hesitated, but exhaustion won. I grabbed my bag and followed him to a small cabin not far from the road. Inside, it was warm. Safe. I slept without dreaming. In the morning, he drove me back to my truck. The fog was gone. Daylight made the mountains look ordinary again. Nothing was missing. Nothing was damaged. No footprints. No signs of anything at all. I thanked him and drove away. I never asked his name. I never saw the cabin again. And I will never ever stop on that road at night. My name is Sean, but on the road, most drivers call me Hawk. I've been driving trucks for years. Long routes, night shifts, lonely highways. I'm not the kind of guy who scares easily. Truck driving teaches you patience, focus, and how to stay calm when you're far from help. But what happened to me recently still comes back every time I drive at night, especially when the road gets quiet. This happened on Interstate 10, through a remote stretch of West Texas. If you've ever driven there, you know what I mean. Miles of nothing, flat land, dry desert, no towns, no lights, just road and sky. We were 3 trucks traveling together. 6 drivers total, 2 in each truck. That's how we usually do it when crossing long, isolated stretches at night. It feels safer. But that night, even 3 trucks didn't feel like enough. It was around 10:30 p.m. when we entered the empty stretch. The sun had gone down completely and the desert turned black. No moon, no stars, just our headlights cutting narrow tunnels through the darkness. We were keeping a steady speed, about 70 miles an hour. No rush, no stops planned. I felt fine at first. To stay alert, I turned on a horror story through my speakers. I'd done it before. Never had a problem. The story played quietly in the background while the road stretched endlessly ahead. About 10 minutes in, something strange happened. A sweet smell filled my cab. Not perfume, not food. Something soft and pleasant. It felt calming, like the smell that you notice right before falling asleep. I remember thinking it was strange because nothing like that should be out there in the desert. Still, it didn't scare me. Then, without warning, the smell changed. The sweetness vanished and was replaced by something else. A chemical stench. Sharp. Burning. Heavy. It hit the back of my throat and made my eyes water. I started coughing. It felt like breathing poison. I rolled the windows down and tried to air the cab out, but the smell clung to everything. I grabbed my radio and called the other drivers. "Hey," I said, "do you guys smell that?" They answered one by one, "No, nothing. Air's clean." That made my stomach tighten, because whatever it was only in my truck. After a few minutes, the smell disappeared as suddenly as it had come. I told myself it was stress or my imagination, but I turned the horror story off anyway. A short while later, I heard a loud bang from behind me, metal hitting metal. The sound came from the rear of the truck, my cargo lock. I checked the rear view camera screen. Nothing, no car, no headlights, no movement. Then something hit the passenger side door. A rock. I flinched. Before I could react, another sound came from above me. Scratching, slow, dragging, like something moving across the roof of the cab. My heart started racing. I checked the mirrors. Nothing. Just empty highway. I felt it then. That feeling you get when you know you're being watched. Not seen, but studied. I forced myself to keep driving. I didn't want to stop in that place. I looked at the camera screen again. That's when I saw them, dark shapes, running, right behind my truck, low to the ground, fast. They moved like dogs, but wrong, too smooth, too silent. I counted at least 3 of them. They stayed just outside the reach of my headlights. I slammed the brakes lightly to see if they'd move. They didn't. I leaned forward and looked through the mirrors. The road behind me was empty. No animals, no shadows. Nothing. But on the screen, they were still there. I grabbed my phone to record. The camera wouldn't open. The screen froze, then went black. I tried again. Nothing. That's when the rear camera feed changed. The running shapes disappeared. And something else filled the screen, a face, so close it looked pressed against the lens, completely black, no features. Then the eyes opened, red, bright, burning. The mouth curled into a smile, slow, deliberate. I screamed and dropped the phone. At the same moment, the truck jerked violently. A loud explosion echoed through the cab. The steering wheel pulled hard to the right. My tire had blown. I fought to keep control and ease the truck onto the shoulder. The other two trucks stopped behind me, hazard lights flashing. The desert swallowed the sound. We got out to check the damage. The night air was cold and still, too still. As we started pulling out tools, we heard something. A sound from the bushes along the edge of the road. Crying, a child. Soft. Broken. My blood turned cold. No one spoke. We all heard it. One of the drivers whispered, "That's not right." We shined our flashlights toward the bushes. Nothing moved. Then we saw them. Cats. One sat near the edge of the light. Then another. Then another. They didn't run, they didn't hiss, they just sat there watching us. Perfectly still. Their eyes reflected the light in a way that made my skin crawl. Then something changed. The cats' faces began to shift. Their bodies stayed small, but their heads stretched. Teeth lengthened. Eyes narrowed. They looked like wolves, trapped in the wrong shape. Their backs arched. Low growls rolled from their throats. More appeared, surrounding us. Closing the circle, we backed toward the trucks. Someone started praying out loud. Another joined in, then another. The growling grew louder, closer. Just as panic took over, red and blue lights flashed across the desert. A highway patrol car pulled up behind us. The moment the headlights hit the animals, they vanished. Gone. Like they had never been there. The officer stepped out, hand on his radio. He looked around, confused. We tried to explain. The smells, the animals, the crying. He listened quietly, then said something I won't forget. "This area isn't safe at night." He helped us find the spare tire. It wasn't where we left it. It was far from the truck. Near the fence line, no footprints, no drag marks, nothing. We changed the tire as fast as we could. No one spoke. When we finished, we didn't waste another second. We got back on the road and drove. Faster than before. None of us wanted to be last. I don't listen to horror stories while driving anymore. Not at night. Not on empty roads. Because something out there listened with me. And I don't think it liked being noticed.